That's enough of Igor from Young Frankenstein. And now it's time to talk about the Igor that everyone's really talking about, and that is the new album from Tyler, the Creator, which at the moment is looking on its way to be the most acclaimed hip-hop album of 2019, alongside all the UK successes from Dave, Slow Tie, and of course the absolutely fantastic album from Little Sims, which is currently my top album of 2019, in fact best British hip-hop album of the decade. But anyway, so this album is a big stylistic change for Tyler, but I'm loving it because it's changing to a style that I absolutely love, and that is neo-soul, basically R&B and soul music that is thoroughly indebted to the sound of the 1980s, is very synth-lined and all that, but it's still distinctly modern thanks to the new production that has been added to it, and it is very much a 2010s craze, as quite a few of the main R&B artists have been doing this, like key examples being Solange and Anderson .Paak, and now Tyler, the Creator, is joining on. And this gives the album an overall blissful feel throughout, though the tone changes at the appropriate moments, because part of the key things of this album is it's a narrative, which is something I absolutely love. Like, one of the things that I think an album can do that just a collection of songs can't is that an album can, in a way, draw you into its own little world, and this especially comes through with concept albums, and especially even more with albums that create a story, as with Pink Floyd's The Wall and David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust. And the story for this is, get this, someone falls in love, gets betrayed, and then leaves the relationship. Okay, once you're actually drawn into the concept, you see it seems pretty standard. Like, it's fair to say there isn't a shortage of albums that are about troubled relationships. But this album does do it really well, and it does go full on with the whole concept vibe, especially with the fact that there's an intro track, which I absolutely love, which sets the stage and draws you in, that being IGOR'S theme, or Igor's theme, I'm not sure how the pronunciation goes. But as said, the story is told exclusively through the music, and the tracks switch tone at each of the appropriate emotional moments. Like, you have the blissful woozy of Early Love on the hyper-catchy lead single EARFQUAKE. You have the sort of sadness in the classic soul sample and violins on Puppets after being betrayed. And you get the anger at this betrayal in the rougher, edged beats and lyrics, and the whole eerie tone on What's Good. And the lyrics do give like a rich picture of the emotions the character is feeling throughout at each moment. As I said, Tyler is very well known for being a mega hyper-skilled lyricist. However, there were definitely parts of the concept which could have been expanded on a bit more to give it a bit more of a quirky, unique feel. If it does have a quirky, unique feel, but it could have been more so. Like, when I've been reading up about the concept, apparently one of the parts was that the character was meant to be the sidekick to a supervillain, or an assistant to a supervillain, and I'm like, where the hell is that? Where the hell did you get that from? Like, I get that's what, you know, the real Igor character is known for, but you didn't actually hint that that's what your character does. And I mean, you definitely need to MF Doom it up a bit more with the characterization there. And another thing that doesn't really surface that much with the album, unless you read up on it or dig in a bit more into the info before listening, is the fact that it's hyper star-studded. Like, most of the time, these star-studded moments are done really well. Like, Lil Uzi Vert adds surprisingly great vocals to the opening track. Kanye West is always good when he makes his appearance on Puppets. And I just like the little snippet where Slow Tie makes an appearance. But there are a lot of instances where the star power doesn't really shine through. Like, it's just sort of there. Like, for instance, LaRue and CeeLo Green provide vocals on the track Gone Gone Thank You, but they're so deeply buried in backing vocals and production that you would have had no idea it was them unless you look it up. which I find especially annoying because I love CeeLo Green and LaRue is one of my favourite electronic artists and I didn't even notice it was them. And again, there is one guest feature that doesn't work, and that is Playboi Carti's feature on EARFQUAKE. It's fair to say there aren't really any more jokes that could be made about it, because it really could have been done in gibberish, like, like, what is that, Swahili? Swahili, Korean, or whatever. Anyhow, but as a whole, I'd say the star power is a nice feature. Even if it doesn't always work, the star power is a nice feature on the album because it sort of leaves you in awe of just how many great stars he's managed to get for it. Like, you also have guest appearances from other great artists like, of course, the earlier mentioned Solange, whose influence definitely felt right throughout the album with the change to neo-soul. And in fact, also the use of audio clips to further the concept, where it occasionally has an actor speaking who'd taken on the role of Igor right throughout the album, speaking some of his thoughts in between the tracks. So he is aware that the concept is a bit at points and helps elaborate on it for us. Of course, the great Santa Gold, Pharrell Williams, Jack White's in there, and also in there is Charlie Wilson of the Gap Band, again helping add to that classic soul feel. Over one final comparison to some of Solange's work. Again, one issue that this album does share with Solange's last album is there could have been a bit more variety between the tracks. Like, you do get the blissful ones and the more rougher-edged ones, but all the tracks do sound extremely similar, and with the loose song structure, they do sort of blur into each other at times. And so some go right through, whereas others stick in the mind, but still there are quite a few that do sort of slip through. But even then, they're still pretty good. The loose song structure does sort of take on a wild ride while you're listening. Like, whoa, where is this going to go next? So they like suddenly change right in the middle. And again, as I say, the tracks that are the best are the ones that definitely do something different. The ones where you can't blur them into the other tracks because they have a clear production choice that makes them stand out. Like on IGOR'S theme, it's sort of dramaticness of it. It's the soul pop on EARFQUAKE. It's those brilliant electronic alarm noises on Magic Wand. And of course some of the aggressive fuzz on the tracks are about a third of the way in, where at the point of the betrayal of the character. And yes, the tracks that stick in your mind really do stick in your mind, which is helped by the fact that many of them have excellent refrains, which I'm sure will be like chanted at festivals or all of his concerts right throughout the summer, like, you are my earthquake and don't leave. And my favourite, my love's gone. All together now, my love's gone. Well, that was pretty good for me. Might have sounded crap to you, but anyhow. So, my overall opinion, it's a drastic change for Tyler, going from like his more infamously aggressive and comedically crude lyrics to more heartfelt ones, but it's really effectively done. Like, his singing, and yes, that is a big change, he's going from rapping to singing on this one. His singing is a good balance between like smooth enough to add to the whole soulful vibe, yet still flawed enough to add a good strong emotion to the tracks. Even if the concept isn't too strong on the surface level, it does deeply explore all the key stages of a troubled relationship. Like, in fact, the last 3 tracks are all about like the emotions in his head after the breakup, like the anger of it and then the acceptance going into it, from the anger to the bliss again. And it does draw you into the world of your album as you're listening. So because of its flawed, I'm not totally head over heels for it, but I was extremely pleasantly surprised by it, and I'm really happy that it's getting the acclaim that it has. It's a win from me, and a solid 7.9 out of 10. For the best tracks, I'd definitely say IGOR'S Theme, EARFQUAKE, New Magic Wand, Puppet, and What's Good, and Gone Thank You. If you want some similar stuff, I'd of course recommend Outkast, because they're a bit soulful. Q-Tip's the Renaissance, very soulful again. I just love the sheer jazziness of Kendrick Lamar, so just give it a try. Another great hip-hop album, Lupe Fiasco's early stuff. And of course, MF Doom if you love your rap, a bit quirkier. Sayonara.